Hey, it's Dr. Jade, Teta, and welcome to Metabolic Living's Immunity Upgrade Blueprint. In today's lecture, we're going to talk about intuitive eating versus tracking and counting. This is really a quality and quantity discussion. We're also going to be talking about total daily energy expenditure, something that science abbreviates TDEE, and how to match that with what you're taking in terms of your measuring and calorie counts. Now remember, the best defense is a strong immune system, and you get a strong immune system when you develop a strong, robust, healthy metabolism. The metabolism is what provides the energy to fuel your immune system so that the immune system can do its job fighting off microbes like bacteria and viruses. Now, there's an argument in the world of health and fitness, and the argument essentially goes like this. One side of the argument says quantity is everything. You should just track, count, look at your calories, look at your macronutrients. The other side of the argument says, no, 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 the body has an intuitive sense. You need to listen to your body. You need to focus on the quality of the foods you eat. And when you give the body what it's needs and what it's asking for, it should take care of itself. So which of these two are right? Let's have this discussion. I will give you a hint. You don't have to separate these two. They are not opposites. They are actually synergists. However, when one isn't working, you might want to lean on the other a little bit more. But let's talk about these first, how to do them. When it comes to this idea of quality over quantity, we've essentially already established this as we've been talking through this education. First, when you look at SHMEC, sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings, and all the other biofeedback that it is essentially pointing us towards, this is a very intuitive approach. It's a feeling approach. It uses biofeedback sensations, and these sensations are not clearly 100% objective. They are somewhat subjective. Now, at the same time, we're using these subjective feelings, these biofeedback sensations. We also should be looking at whether or not we are actually getting results. Are we losing weight, and are we more specifically losing fat? Past lectures talk about how to measure this. Now, the interesting thing is we've talked a lot about how to use the AIM process, assess, investigate, modify, in a very intuitive way. If this isn't working, add some of this. If that's not working, add some of that. It's sort of like a pick and choose sort of thing, trial and error kind of thing. Well, sometimes we need to get much more deliberate and much more structured and much more sophisticated in our evaluations. And so we want to talk about this a little bit. First, let's talk about intuitive eating. This idea that our body knows exactly what it needs, and if we just sort of think about it and are in touch and are very mindful and understand and look at food and taste it and take our time and smell and use all of our sort of senses, we should be able to know what the body's telling us. So here's the question, though. Is intuition in this way really real? Most people think, when they think of intuition, they think of it almost as magic. But actually, science has a very good handle on what intuition actually is. What intuition is it is the administration, the combination of all of our senses, along with experience that has been gathered over time, applied and sort of guiding us almost like a sixth sense. So intuition is kind of our sixth sense. It is the integration of all of our other senses plus experience. Now, that last part is what is critical. Experience. Information gathered and learned becomes knowledge. Knowledge delivers insights, inspiration. This pushes us to intuition. This is sort of like all of this knowledge that we're accumulating, all of our senses, but then we have to try out that knowledge in the world. We have to bring our senses to bear, and that is where experience comes in. So in a very real sense, intuition is built stronger based on experience. So why am I bringing this up at this point? Because sometimes what we want to understand is that we don't have enough experience to use our intuition the right way. And if that's the case, it's kind of like a blind driver trying to feel their way around, running into things and making a mess. In other words, intuition, oftentimes when it happens around food, if you don't know that a chicken breast is essentially 100% protein, if you don't know that steak doesn't have any carbohydrate, if you don't know roughly how many calories a cup of broccoli has, if you've never weighed and measured anything, if you don't even know what a carbohydrate versus a fat versus a protein is, how are you going to be intuitive about anything, right? Especially nowadays when we have all these different foods that are now packaged, where science is basically taking certain foods like protein shakes and protein bars and fiber bars and cereal bars, and we're integrating all this information. So the point is, intuition without experience sometimes fails us. And that's where, if it does, we want to begin to understand about calories and foods and have some education around that. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, how much do I actually know about food? Do I know what proteins are? Do I know what fats are? Do I know what carbohydrates are? Do I know roughly how many calories are in this particular meal? I'm someone who has done so much counting and measuring and weighing and calorie tracking over my life that it has now become easy. Easy is earned in this regard, right? So now I can look at a plate of food at, a one of these all-you-can-eat buffets or something like that, fill up my plate with food and roughly go, okay, that's a chicken breast. The chicken's about 8 ounces of chicken on that plate. That's about 300 calories. There's 2 cups of broccoli there. That's probably another close to 100 calories. There's a pat of butter and oil, 2 tablespoons of oil. That's probably another 300 calories. This meal's about 700 calories and has roughly about, 50 grams of protein in it. I can do that because I've had the experience. So I can have a very intuitive approach, partly because so much experience has informed things. And so what I want to present here is that if you're somebody who has never tracked, measured, weighed, and you're not getting results in your diet and lifestyle, you need to begin to learn how to do this. So I'm going to teach you how, in this particular lecture, how to begin this process. And you might be interested to know that one of the things that research shows when they go and look at people who are successful at losing weight and keeping it off, almost all of the people who are able to keep it off do some kind of tracking, some kind of accounting of the food that they eat. So if you've never done this before, you might say, well, Jade, where do I start? Well, one of the best places to start, one of the easiest places to start is an app like MyFitnessPal. This is an app. You can sign up for it. You can essentially go there and begin to log your foods and basically be able to see how many calories does this food have? How much protein versus fat versus carb does this food have? And then you can begin to see and combine that with your intuition about how full did that make me feel. Now, at the same time, you can also go out to the website and find calculators that look at what is known as total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE. What this is this is essentially the amount of calories you burn at rest, plus taking into account how active you are. And so these total daily energy expenditure calculators, along with tracking everything that you're eating, gives you a good idea about the math behind your intake and output of fuel, of energy, of calories. Now, is this necessary for everyone? No. But even the people who are well schooled in intuitive eating like myself, when I'm really wanting to get in shape, or I'm really thinking, hey, I better tighten up a little bit, I gained a little bit too much weight, I'm not feeling as healthy, I go back to this so I don't have to guess as much. And what I find is that it's striking that so many people have never done this. And so step 1, log all your stuff. Step 2, know roughly how much you're burning. Now, is this perfect? No. That's part of the reason why many people avoid it, because it's not perfect. How can it be, right? We can't define each individual human according to a total daily energy expenditure calculator, because Depending on the day, our metabolic rates fluctuate. We've seen that. We've also talked about the fact that our metabolism compensates in many different ways based on how we're exercising, how much we're taking in, etc. However, it's better than just making it up and guessing. It gets you a little closer, and it teaches you a whole lot in the process. And so from there, what I want you to do is I want you to write down what you're doing, everything that you're eating. I want you to record that, every single morsel that goes in your food or in your mouth if you've never done this before. This teaches you to get very mindful. So think about intuitive eating is a very mindful process. Part of mindfulness, though, is understanding how many calories are in something. For example, did you know that a tablespoon of butter, a little tiny tablespoon of butter, has about 100 calories? That's about the same amount of calories in 2 cups of broccoli. Now, that should matter to you. You should know that. You should understand that, because then you can see that, oh, just because I'm eating a small volume of food doesn't mean I'm not getting a huge amount of calories from that food. This is important to understand, because when we start talking about foods like avocado that are very healthy, these can be very calorie dense, or nuts, which are very healthy, but also can be very calorie dense. If they are calorie dense, and if they do lead to calorie excess, then they're no longer healthy foods. They're no longer going to serve you. This is why this is important. So I want you to write down everything, and I want you to weigh and measure everything and record it into something like a MyFitnessPal. What you're going to do is you're going to track a normal week. And here's one thing to understand about the way the body manages, quote, manages calories. It doesn't think about calories on a day-to-day or week-to-week measure. But we humans, we can't really manage calories over a month. We can do it over a week. It's better to kind of say, where am I at the end of a week? What was my total calorie intake? And the reason why a week is important is because most people have days during the week where they consume the vast majority of their calories. How many of you consume double or triple the food intake and calorie intake on the weekends as you do during the week? Well, guess what? You may have had a very low-calorie diet every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday have such a high calorie intake that you completely wipe out any calorie deficit and actually end up in a calorie excess. This is why I like to have you do an entire week of writing everything down and then look at how much energy you have taken in. And then based on your total daily energy expenditure, that rough estimate, you can begin looking and seeing, okay, this is what my intake looks like compared to my output. And then you can actually say with good confidence, I am in a calorie deficit or I am not. This is very important. And of course, you can still be very intuitive about it, and should be. Is my schmeck in check? Is my schmeck not in check? Is sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and craving still in check? Great. And all of a sudden now, if you haven't been getting results, you can get very particular and savvy with this. And this is important. So you write down everything for a normal week. The calorie intake then begins to guide you, and so does heck and schmeck guide you. And this is a intuitive approach combined with a tracking approach. The two are not opposites, they are synergist. And some people absolutely do need to learn to track and count and weigh and measure, especially those who have never done it before. And so this is, I agree, sometimes difficult and time-consuming to do. However, I no longer have to count and track. Many people who did count and track for long periods of time don't either. However, if you've never done it, and you're someone who's saying, Jade, I'm not getting results no matter what I do, yet you refuse to track and count, this is a good indication that you need to begin to think about doing this. Okay, so the key takeaways. Tracking is sometimes absolutely necessary. Intuition is not magic. It's a skill. It's built on experience. What we want you to do, if you're not getting results and if you're feeling like nothing's working, we want you to write down, weigh, and measure everything for a week, and then compare that with your total daily energy expenditure estimate to see where you really are. And then use that together with sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings, these intuitive biofeedback sensations, to adjust and manipulate and change the diet to create a program that works specifically for you. Okay, thanks for watching today's episode. You can still join and access all the material. All you have to do is go over to metabolicliving.com. We've got free immune strengthening workouts. meal plans and recipes, no matter your nutrition sort of approach, paleo, keto, vegan, etc. If you've enjoyed this particular lecture, please share this with all your friends and family. And don't forget to follow us at Metabolic Living on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Remember, we're all in this together. It's about boosting your metabolism, strengthening your immune system, and flattening the curve for all of us. Hope you enjoyed this session, and we will see you at the next lecture.